Hello ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Pork Shopper here, and today we're going to go over the abilities of the new hero, Wraith. This won't be a full-on guide which will be coming out later this week. This video is just to help you understand the new hero's abilities, how they work, and what to expect from the new hero himself. Quite obvious that he will be a very weak hero that has a high mana pool with regen, and with more focus and ability armor, he clearly is a caster, but a unique one at that. He maybe could play mid lane, off lane, or even support, but that's for another video on the weekend. So let's get into his abilities. First up we have Knock Knock. He's poke and tool every caster has. Wraith's has a small cooldown and a very long range. It can snipe up to 2,400 units away through all geometry. The mana cost is rather expensive, but the damage and scaling being 1 power scaling is not that bad at all. The ability's unique perk is that if you get the last hit on a minion or enemy hero, this will refund the mana cost over a short duration and lower the cooldown from 6 seconds to 2 seconds. It cannot penetrate through enemies though, it only hits a single target. Now the best way to compare this is to other casting poking abilities. Because Knock Knock has more range, can go through walls, and if you last hit refunds the mana cost, it won't be as powerful. Gadget's, Gideon's and Howie's poking tools all have the same scaling and power. They have a 1.25 scaling and at level 4 deal 280 damage with an 8-second cooldown and 145 mana for both Gideon and Howie's and 160 mana for Gadget's. Compare that to Wraith where at level 4 it deals only 230 ability damage with only 1 power scaling, a 6-second cooldown and 140 mana means as you pile on the power, Knock Knock will be considerably weaker than the other poking tools. You also have to remember though that Knock Knock is a skill shot. Yes, Gideon's and Howie's rockets are hard to hit on enemies sometimes, but Knock Knock is more skillful and that which I personally like. We've had too many easy lock-on abilities recently. Best to poke enemies from far or secure kills from tricky situations, but for more mid to late game it's to farm those minions waves a lot quicker without costing any mana from the safety of your towers. His next ability is Who's There. Wraith launches a sonar ward for 60 seconds and every 3 seconds it will pin, locating any enemy within its 1300 radius, which also has no line of sight restriction so can see through walls like good old legacy wards. If you pin an enemy with the sonar ward they will be filled for a set duration of time depending on its upgrade level. 6 seconds at level 1 seems good enough, but at level 4 a whole 15 seconds of vision on another is rather bonkers. You can even have a maximum of 3 on the map at one time. The cooldown is high with a low mana cost and the ward cannot be destroyed. It cannot see shadow wards but can see people in the shadow plane, and it doesn't really have any visual cue for the other team. It is hard to know where Wraith has put his ward down and if you have been spotted by them or not. Also it's made the jungler's role early on a hell lot harder if phase is blind wasn't enough. This ability would be useful to scout ahead to see if they were say taking or prime or raptors or more early game to throw down to see the enemy's jungle or have better vision of the river buffs, or even if you're about to get ganked. With the low mana cost you won't have to worry about that, just the cooldown. His final ability is the most interesting, being Back It Up. You mark an enemy hero to walk them back to where they were 3 seconds ago. Upgrading this ability reduces extremely high cooldown and the range it can be used at. The mana cost is rather decent, not too expensive but still costly, but with how long in between using the ability, that cost won't be a problem. 1325 unit range at level 1 is even longer than a ranged basic attack, and 2000 units at level 4 is a very big distance. It is a lock-on ability as long as you have visual sight of the enemy. That means even through walls as long as you can see them, say if they're next to one of your allies or with a ward, which I'm not sure if I like or not. Once activated, the graphics on screen are really well done, so you can see where the enemy will land and when they will land at the spot to help your team understand the play more you have made if they aren't on voice comms. This ability is going to be very crazy. I am very thankful it has a low cooldown. It has 28 seconds at level 1, which is probably the longest cooldown of any ability in the game currently. Even 16 seconds at level 4 is a long one, and it should be. This ability can counter a lot of heroes and is Wraith's really own team fight ability. Up against a Gideon, wait for them to ult, then back them up and get rid of the ultimate. Against a Muriel or Clary, wait until they have ulted, then back them up all the way to the other side of the map to their original location. Even against FaZe, you mark a target which she pulls back. If you can get range, back them up all the way back into your team, so FaZe is a lot more useless than she was. Same thing for helping with ganks. Teleporting the enemy back from safety into your team is going to be very unfortunate for them. And finally, you can also save yourself from ganks from it, sending enemies back while you retreat to safety. Only advice I would give here is to use it wisely and count the 3 seconds. Once I started using this ability, I realised I wasn't counting the 3 seconds correctly and I was only pushing them back further. Wait 3 seconds as they retreat and then bring them back into the action. It has a low cooldown, so during a big team fight, panicking to use it to only realise you need it at a more crucial point is something we'll all have to learn once we get used to the new hero over the coming weeks, so don't worry about it. And finally we have its ultimate surprise surprise. Wraith sends him and any ally within 2200 units into the shadow plane, granted a 100 speed boost for the whole duration. The duration depends on the ultimate's level shown on screen now. The mana cost sticks at 100, but the cooldown is very high. I mean, it may not make sense why it's that high, but if you think about it with the right communication, this ultimate could be very devastating to jump on an enemy team at any given point. I really cannot wait to see what competitive teams come up with Wraith. Because you are in the shadow plane means enemy wards will spot you, and so can Kalari or anyone who has the purple river buff, so be aware of that when you are considering making a play. This ultimate can be used to be offensive, helping to gank a lane or to jump on a dumb enemy team that hasn't warped or prime as they do it. This ultimate also can be used to defensively, to help your team escape from a bad engagement or even to clear up wards or visually see others in shadow plane. If a Kalari is super low, you can pop this ult to get a good visual so your team can clear her up. These are just a few of probably many ideas people will come up with. Some may be waste for the cooldown, but that doesn't mean not to use it because it's not the perfect engagement. With randoms it will be a lot harder to execute for sure. And that finally wraps up all about Wraith's abilities and scaling and a little bit of information on each one to help you understand him more. I would suggest a cooldown reduction card on him to help with the heavy cooldowns and an escape, for example Teleblink, and except for that a bit of mana and mostly damage. You don't want a super amount of damage as not all his abilities deal it. I would rather use more utility cards to keep him alive to help the team in other ways. But I will go into that further once I do a full guide or deck build in the upcoming week or so please do stick around for my channel of that. This was just getting over the basics to help all the new players out, and I will see you all next time.